Welcome back to today's video. So today we're going to be talking about a fun dessert you can make for your Thanksgiving celebration. One of our favorite desserts is pecan pie, and I have actually been making it with honey for many years for my husband. There have been some years where it has not turned out, either due to my impatience or not using the exact right proportions, but this recipe makes for a great turnout in the end. So if you love Thanksgiving and you love the dessert that comes with Thanksgiving and you're a fan of pecan pie, I think you will enjoy today's video. So let's get started. Okay, well, I'm gonna be honest and say that Thanksgiving is probably one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite holiday. I might have inherited my love for it from my mother, but the food involved in a traditional Thanksgiving feast has become my favorite. It's one I look forward to all year long, and of course the leftovers are probably the best part. So the food that we enjoy on Thanksgiving is part of the traditional food that my family has been enjoying for decades. This includes a whole roast turkey, sweet potato casserole, homemade stuffing, homemade cranberry sauce, of course gravy, and homemade mashed potatoes. In recent years, we've roasted Brussels sprouts, and it's been a great addition to the feast, and homemade creamed corn casserole. It tastes like home when all of these dishes are together on a plate. It's just my favorite. I wait all year for it. But another fun part of the Thanksgiving feast is obviously the dessert that comes after. So what we have done traditionally as a family throughout the years is we eat the meal around 3, we take a walk, we come back for pie, and some sort of fun movie. That's kind of what the day's events hold in terms of our Thanksgiving feast. The 2 pies that are generally a part of our Thanksgiving feast are homemade pumpkin and homemade pecan. And so today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade pecan pie using honey that you can make for your own Thanksgiving feast. So what we're going to start out with today is the pie crust recipe. And nothing has changed around here at Thuja Hill. I still find Thomas Keller's pie crust recipe to be superior. I love it. It's my favorite pie crust recipe. I use it for every recipe that calls for pie crust, whether that be quiche or pecan pie. And so that's what I'm going to be using today. So what I have here in my bowl is 1 cup of spelt flour. Now, Thomas Keller uses all-purpose flour. I am not currently using all-purpose flour in my kitchen. Spelt is a great substitute for all-purpose if you haven't tried it. And it's very delicious as well. So I'm using a cup of spelt flour. And then here I have a 1/2 cup of butter, which I've already cut into cubes. And I'm going to just add that into my flour mixture. And this recipe also calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of a good sea salt in here. And then another very important element of this pie crust recipe is ice water. You want ice water because it gives you the consistency of the crust that you're looking for. Okay, so what I do next, I go ahead and I kind of crumble the butter into the flour to make it a coarse, grainy mixture. And what's going to help it come together is obviously the addition of ice water. I could use a little bit more water. My dough is looking really good, as you can see here. Got a nice lump of pie crust dough. And now I'm just gonna kind of spread it out onto my cutting board, and I'm gonna start to roll it out and get my pie crust formed. What I like to do is make the pie crust and put it in the freezer while I'm getting on with the other ingredients. This just ensures that the crust is nice and formed into the pan. You can also make this crust in advance. You can make it and freeze it and bake your pie the next day. You can make this crust well in advance if you are short on time on Thanksgiving Day. So now we are rolling out our pie crust, and it's a great consistency. I did have to add a little bit more flour just so that it wouldn't stick to the board. And then from here, we're gonna go ahead and put it in our pie dish. I like to roll it like this, and then unroll it like that. It makes it a lot easier. And now I'm gonna get on just forming my pie crust into the dish. right, so there's my pie crust. I'm going to go ahead and stick this in the freezer now, and we'll get on making our pecan pie filling. Okay, now that our pie crust is all ready and in the freezer chilling, we're gonna get on with the inside of our pie. This honey pecan pie calls for quite a bit of honey. So we have a lovely bit of raw orange blossom honey right here that I get from Azure Standard, and we're gonna use a cup of that. The recipe also calls for eggs, sugar, which I'm using sucanat today, flour, I'm using spelt flour, vanilla, which I am actually pulling out my homemade vanilla for the first time. Remember, if you look back, we made this vanilla in May, and so it's been sitting and getting all nice and flavored and delicious for the last 7 months, and so just in time for holiday baking. I'm gonna be using some salt and some chopped pecans and some whole pecans. All right, so let's get started adding our ingredients to this bowl. So we're gonna start with the honey. So here's our beautiful raw honey. One thing I forgot to mention is we are also going to utilize some melted butter for this recipe as well. So to our 1 cup of raw honey, we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. The warmth of the melted butter helps the honey to melt down as well, which is nice. Makes for easier stirring. And we are also going to add our 3 eggs that have been lightly beaten. We're going to give that a good mix as well. All right, that is a really good consistency. I'll show you here. It's kind of runny and all of the honey and the egg and the butter are mixed together properly. Next, we're gonna add our 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm using the sugar I normally use, which is sucanat, which is just dehydrated cane sugar, so it has all the minerals left in it. Give it a good stir. And we're also gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of a good sea salt. Now we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm excited to crack this open. This is the homemade vanilla we made earlier this year. It smells so good. We're just gonna add a teaspoon. You could add more if you'd like. I'm a big fan of vanilla myself. Okay, and next we're gonna add some flour to thicken it. I have here a 1/4 cup of spelt flour. You can use a little bit less. It just kind of depends on how the mixture looks. Right now mine is very runny, as you can see, and so this flour will just help to thicken it up a bit. So I'll start with about 3 tablespoons, and if I need more, then I'll add more. I think this mixture looks about right, so I'm not gonna add any more flour to it, but I am gonna add my chopped pecans. So to this bowl, I'm gonna add a cup of chopped pecans. And that is that. Now we are gonna get this mixture into our pie crust that is in the freezer. I have about 1/2 of a cup of whole pecans here that I'm gonna decorate the top with. After it's been decorated, we're gonna stick it in a 350-degree oven for 40 to 45 minutes, or until a knife comes out clean. Okay, our honey pecan pie is ready to go in a 350-degree oven for the next 40 to 45 minutes. We've decorated the top with some whole pecans, and the consistency is lovely. I can't wait for this pie to come out of the oven and to enjoy it with some vanilla ice cream. All right, friends, and there it is, our lovely honey pecan pie, all baked up and ready to soon enjoy. What I will do is let it sit for at least an hour before we cut into it so that the insides can congeal and be a lovely consistency for a piece of pie. So that is it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. As usual, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in another brand new one soon. And I wish you and your family a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Goodbye for now.